Welcome to this new episode of the Supernova podcast. Today we have the immense pleasure to welcome Menno Bakker. Menno, hello, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, it's an authentic pleasure to have you here today. Menno, you were an army officer. You served in Afghanistan. You also are a diplomatic attaché. You're a professor who teaches executive MBAs in business schools. You're also an adrenaline junkie who once in a while likes to jump from a plane or who finished a full Ironman. You're also the founder of Empower Executives. You're an executive coach, leadership trainer, and a father of 4. So Menno, I'm wondering, with all those diverse experiences of yours, in which situation do you feel the most like yourself?
Oh, thank you, Sophie, also for the invitation and for this conversation. So where do I feel most like myself? I would say there's this common ground in all the activities that I do. It really sounds like a lot if you put it like this. And I would say that whenever there are people and that undergoes a form of change, of growth, I am in the right place. When I feel that I can add a form of value, it is my space. So whether it's a war zone, or whether it's a classroom or one-on-one coaching, I'm super passionate about positive change. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I experience is that life is so short, and we should grow. We should evolve, especially when we have certain pain that keeps us in the past. We should evolve. So because of that, whether it's the military part or the law enforcement part or the teaching part, doesn't really matter, because we can always grow in every context.
Mm-hmm. You talked about war zones, and I'm wondering actually, what are those things that we can learn and take from what you learned in war zones and actually take as a learning for boardrooms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the combination between war zones and boardrooms, it sounds like a world apart. Uh-huh. And my experience is that they are very similar. And of course, there are many things that we can focus on in terms of applicable skills that you can apply from the military in a corporate setting.
Which ones?
Good question. So I would say that bringing yourself into the equation, especially when you are a leader, lead by example. I mean, you can have all the theory and all the power and all the decision power, but people will look at you and they will look at you as the example of leadership. So I've seen leaders with high levels of authority that were not authentic, and they have the genuine ability to absolutely destroy companies, to destroy culture, and also to cultivate a setting where people don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm. We talk about toxicity a lot now these days.
Yeah. For a reason. Uh-huh. Because also within the military, I've had commanders that they were super skilled and used high levels of power, but they were not vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And it's very complicated for a young commander or a young army officer to identify with these people. So it creates a conflict. But I've seen some army commanders where their behavior and the way that they led units, it was so pure and with such high levels of vulnerability. And one of the things that I valued very much was that whenever a decision had to be made, they opened up and they included everyone. Nonetheless, the rank was not important. They opened up for everyone to include in the decision-making process. So the voice of everyone could be heard. And because of that, first of all, they went first. So you could lead by example. Second, they included the decision-making process. And it's like the wisdom of the minority included in the majority votes. Mm-hmm. So they had a buy-in from basically everyone. And those leaders, for me, they were perfect to follow. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to authenticity, how do we cultivate authenticity? How do we stay true to ourselves in a life where we constantly, threats are coming constantly for us to become other people or take on others, other people's suits?
Oh wow, it's a beautiful question. A lot of books about authentic leadership, about being authentic, and for me, the idea of being authentic comes basically from my father, because my father is a preacher. He's now 80 years old, so he's a grandfather, and I love this man very much. But as a child and as a young adult, I struggled with him a lot, because as a preacher, I saw him preach to the multitudes, to hundreds of people, but he was not authentic for me. So I saw this incongruency between the man within his profession and the man inside of the house. And because of this divide, it made me so hungry for the real authentic experience. And I don't know if my father chose the right profession, because he put on a role, literally he put on a suit, and he became this man. So the real man was somewhere in between the father figure that I missed for a part, and the person with the high levels of authority and in levels of influence. And somewhere in between the real man, my father, that's where he was, the authentic person. And it made me so hungry for the question, like, who are you? Who am I? And how can you apply this in real life? Because we do have different roles.
We do have different roles, and what I receive very much as a feedback, as a question when working on executives is when I ask people about their core values, sometimes I get the answer, the question, is it from my personal values in my personal life or is it professional life? And I'm always surprised by this question. So bring it to the field of authentic leadership. What would be your answer?
Well, even making this divide between a public persona and a private persona.
This is your father, right?
Very much. So his identity for a part was built on this public persona. And then you have the private persona and the secret persona. And when you look at, for example, the world of espionage,
a world that you know very well.
When you look at this world, then when you want to persuade someone, when you want to influence someone, or when you go undercover, then the basic layout is that you start with the public persona. Who does someone wants to pretend or to be like? The second step is about who's the private person, the real person, with a little bit more struggles, less perfect. And the third stage, who's the secret person? So with all your secret desires and wishes and all your wrongdoings and regrets and pain and
being hurt, yes,
everything is there in the secret person. And once a person starts opening up that part of his or her life, then you go to the
dark one, no? The dark part.
It can be the dark part. But what if the dark part is the real part? What if the realest version of you is not so perfect? I mean, we all feel this challenge inside of ourselves to be good on the outside and beautiful and attractive and successful and all those things that are highly valued in society. Yet becoming real, that's a journey. And for example, if you look at the definition of being authentic, it is authentikos in Greek. And basically it's about being tested by fire. So what they did in the ancient Greek time is that they had the sculpture, and when the sculpture was not perfect, they put wax on certain elements. So wax on the chin and wax on the hands. And then in order to prove whether it was solid, like rock solid, they put the statue, the image on fire. And then if it remained the same, then it was authentikos. So right now, when you have like a series of challenges in your life where you feel that you're disconnecting, that you feel the need to let go, but you don't want to let go because success, reputation, finance, you hold on to it. Those tests can be a road to more authentic life.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you open for this journey? Because it is not easy, it's not fun, it is not comfortable at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be
There's a
real.
lot of fears. Yes.
A lot of fears.
Yes. And yet, what's the conclusion of not being authentic?
Well,
the consequences of not being authentic.
but the consequences of not being authentic, we can, I think Jim Carrey said it very well. He said, you come to a certain phase in your life where either you need to kill the person that you are and become the person you want to be, or vice versa. So either you need to kill the authentic self and become the person you want to create, the creation of your image, or let go of this entire identity that is not really you. And then you might lose followers on Instagram. You might lose your job and not get a promotion. You know, you might lose the image of success, but you become a loving, kind person. You go different routes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's more about the integration of the both worlds. Instead of work-life balance, it's integration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, finding the thing that you're passionate, like insanely passionate about. If you find that, you often go to the heart. And it might be completely changing the direction of your career, like 100%.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I have many of those stories, no? People coming in a specific pivot in their life and with a conflict. You know, should I get promoted and satisfy my thirst for social status and belonging in the short term, or actually try to pursue this dream of mine that would allow me to be my authentic self? And they talk about essence, they talk about joy. But yes, those conflicts happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, exactly that. Exactly that. So you are well established. You're like midlife phase, like mid-40s,
Yes.
mid-50s.
Usually around that.
You have established so many things. So the need to establish yourself as a successful person, the need is not there anymore.
Exactly.
Who's left? And most often, like executives, you know, the C-suite managers, they start asking this question, like, okay, now I have accomplished all of this. What do I want?
Yeah.
And most of them, they go to the
What now? Yes.
beauty and art, and like, for example, the Sylvester Stallone in the documentary. Now he's entering, I believe, in his 70s, and what you see is that he starts to express himself through creativity. So a lot of writing, but also painting as a way of expression. Jim Carrey does the same.
Yes.
David Beckham goes into a completely different world. Now his football career changed. So the need for authentic life becomes super relevant when you have filled all the needs, before.
Like the basic needs now of financial stability, safety, providing for my family. Right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
met. Now what?
Yeah.
And we're elevating. So we're talking about authenticity and definitely connecting with ourselves. No, like showing the vulnerability to do this exercise, however tough it might be. Now, can we leverage being authentic as a way to connect and bond with other people?
Fully, yeah. So, for you, for me, everyone that's watching or listening, you know exactly when you feel a strong connection to another person. And most of the time, it is when this person completely opens up. Because we are sometimes weak, and we can relate to that. We don't have everything figured out. We all have certain types of fear.
This is the human condition.
It's just a human condition.
Yeah.
Like, stop being perfect.
Yeah.
Of course we must work hard. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious and being super successful. It is all fine. But along the way, you must go to the core that answers the question, who am I? And am I the person I want to be? If you have children, do you want your child to be like you? or not? If the answer is no, you have some work to do. And personally, what I've experienced is that most of the time, the way forward is the way inward.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more about silence and understanding and
introspection,
going back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how were you raised as a child?
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from the people that raised you? You know, what were things in your family? What things put you down or discouraged you? And for what things were you rewarded?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were rewarded for being smart or successful or just shutting up, being silent, or, keep your head down, being respectful, those elements of behavior might surface now that you're a grown-up, and that child is still inside. And with transformation and coaching and like leadership development, those elements are crucial.
Mm-hmm. And it always starts with the self-awareness, as you say, because this is usually deeply inside.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step is understanding, right?
Yeah, otherwise it's just a black spot.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it. You're not aware of it.
Yes.
And yeah, like from your experience, you know very well that sometimes you need a different perspective from someone.
Essential. Yes.
Yeah, the essential, but also the rough questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I may say so, excuse my French, but no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the core, like really,
Yes.
really, what is at hand? Open up.
Offering a mirror to this person, right?
Fully.
Yes. Yeah, this is not a journey, in my experience, that someone can do alone.
True. Yeah. And we're so stuck inside of
Uh-huh.
our head, or sometimes in our feelings.
Yeah.
Most men I meet, they're very stuck in a rational mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to connect to the emotions.
Yes.
They need to connect to the physical body,
Uh-huh.
which is not easy if you are being rewarded for being intelligent and smart
Yes.
and being a strong decision maker and dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what place do you give to the emotions in your body?
Uh-huh.
There's no integration. It should be more in balance.
So to bond, we need to be authentic, we need to be vulnerable, we need to show that we share this human condition and the challenges that it offers. Now, on the contrary, like when someone is being inauthentic, I know that this is a topic that you've researched a lot and gained significant experience in. How can we detect when someone is being inauthentic and when we're being lied to? I think you say we're being lied to 20. How many opportunities a day?
According to Pamela Meyer,
Yeah.
she wrote a book, Spot the Lie, and she states that almost 200 times a day you receive a lie. But there are many forms of lie. For example, 80% truth, 20% deceit. She counts that as a lie. The thing is that it is true. Like, we seek for truth, and we are being lied to. One of the things I would focus on there is that with words we can easily deceive each other. So lies are often being told. So in order to look for the truth, we focus more on what's not said, which is often the body language. So you can control your speech patterns and your words, and you can make contact. But if there's an incongruency between what you communicate with your body, that's like a red flag.
The what and the how need to be aligned.
Should,
and those incongruencies, how do you usually spot them?
It's a
They
good
could
question.
be body, they could be face, they could be what we call micro expressions. Would you like to maybe
All of
develop a
that.
little bit on that?
Oh,
Yes.
it's a beautiful topic.
Yes,
Beautiful
I know.
topic. Yeah,
Fascinating.
fully, yeah. I feel like a child, in a big garden playing, because when you start focusing on body language, you suddenly see so much more than you've seen before. But in regard to lie detection, the context is very important. The baseline behavior. So if you know someone, then you start seeing changes in behaviors when someone starts lying.
It's called calibrating, no?
It's a form of,
Understanding the baseline of the person and how they would behave now in normal circumstances.
yeah. For example, in this conversation, when you want to lie to me, it starts with a myth. And the first myth is that if you lie, you look away. So if I tell you something, it's a yes and no question, and I give an answer that is not about yes and no, so I deflect the question, and I move my head away. People think that lying is like this.
It's the contrary, right?
The contrary, because most people that lie, based on research, they almost increase the gaze, and they do this because they want to see if the lie sticks. So, do you buy into my lie? And I want to see if your face gives me any clues whether you acknowledge. What you also see with people that lie is they have asymmetrical behavior. So instead of doing like, I really don't know, they would say like, I don't know. So it's only one shoulder.
Shrugging only one side.
Yeah, the shoulder shrug. Or like, I really want to tell you. Now, my body tells my mouth to not continue speaking. So the covering of the mouth is also an indicator. When someone does this all the time, it's part of the calibrating the baseline behavior. But if you ask a very strong question, yes or no, then you have the gaze, you have the shoulder, you have the lip touching, or the like lip syncing, like you take the lips out of the equation, like lip locking. It's a very strong indicator. And then also what we do, because now you have become a threat. You challenge me. And like working in the area of law enforcement, I was a deputy public prosecutor. I was interviewing and interrogating suspects. What I saw all the time was that they increased the distance to the interrogator. So it's not only about the nose touching, but it's like moving backwards, slightly backwards. Or then suddenly taking a cup of water or a pen and put it in between as a barrier. So normal people have a 50% chance of spotting a liar. But if you start seeing changes in behaviors like touching the lips, one shoulder, increased gaze of the eyes, and then increasing the distance, sometimes nose touching.
Sign of stress, no? More than anything?
It's discomfort.
Discomfort.
Yeah. So most of the time we say we don't look for lying, we look for an increase of discomfort.
What's the physiology behind this, the scratching my nose? Why does my nose get itchy when I'm uncomfortable?
Well, the heart is beating faster when you are fully aware that you're lying. So when you're a sociopath, there will not be a change in heart rate variance or frequency. But normal people, when they are being caught, the heart increases. And because of that, the veins in the nose expand just a little bit. And this creates this itchy feeling. So sometimes they try not to touch the nose, but they cannot help themselves. So it's touching the nose, but sometimes touching the face. And feeling less comfortable, you can see people, men with a shirt, they do like ventilating or touching in the neck. Because all the major nerves, they are located in the neck. And basically the brain says, calm down, calm down, calm down. And how do you calm down? By soothing your own behavior. So Joe Navarro, a former FBI agent, he wrote a lot of books, and he speaks a lot about like touching, doing like this, like comforting yourself, like a mother comforting a child, like touching, like this. If you see this behavior, then basically the body speaks by itself. You can take the words out of the equation, you just focus on what you see, and these elements decrease the stress. Be aware when you see that.
So we focus so far a lot on the upper body and face. Now, are there other signs, that could be displayed in other parts of the body?
Of course. Yeah, this is one question. What part of your body do you think is most honest? I don't know if you know the answer already, but...
I can try. I mean, I would want my hands to be visible first off.
Yeah, so hands are very important. Also eyes. A lot of people say the eyes, or the face, facial expression. But most people, when you go into advanced interrogation skills, they focus on the feet. And the reason for that is we're not aware because of the distance between the brain and this part of the body.
So we're less in control.
So sometimes People say you can put on a poker face, fully focus and concentrate on facial expressions, but then you still have the feet. You cannot control every part of your body.
So we're getting to the fight or flight mode, no?
The fight mode.
Yeah, the fight or flight mode, no? See if our feet can be an indication of our uncomfort.
In a sense, so it can be part of the reptilian brain or the increased energy in the amygdala. But mainly it is about a change in feet position. So suddenly people that feel frightened, they experience fear, their feet will be focused towards an exit. So the direction of the feet may change. Second thing is, for example, in your position right now, if you would feel threatened, I would see that like right now your foot is still. If I start seeing this movement, then I know something is up. So I become aware by focusing on this while having this conversation. So that is why I often suggest, for example, also in my profession, if you have a high value suspect that you want to interrogate, take away the table because you will see more. There is no protection if there's no table. If you want to hire someone for a very important position, like you must see the entire body, and you will read so much more than just the upper part of the body. And do you know the interview with Prince Andrew about the alleged sexual assault of a minor? Have you?
I guess I'll know everything about it after this conversation.
Okay. I will be very brief. But he was so prepped, you know, like in media preparation, and he had his entire team behind him. So his facial expression and recollection, he knew exactly what to say. But at some parts, you know, when it became really hard, when the interviewer really started asking hard questions, you could see a change in the rhythm of his foot. And it was like a very small indicator. But what they found in science is that the rhythm of the foot often is congruent with the increased heart rate. So when your heart is increasing in speed, you go from 50, like rest pace, to 80 or 90, because the heart is working faster because of the release of cortisol and adrenaline. Then you would see that the foot, for a brief moment in time, starts adapting to the heart rate. So,
but there's no need for lie detection machines anymore, right?
Well, it works very well. Like lie detection works very well, but we don't always have this at hand. So then all these different elements, you can say it's a red flag, or it's congruent with the baseline behavior. But the thing is, even during boring meetings, you know, when you have some time, you can start seeing all kinds of behavior around the table. And especially when there is a form of a distrust or challenge within a team environment, it is super interesting to see who mirrors the behavior of another person. You know, so it's very interesting what's not being said, especially at critical moments.
So interesting, now this topic of mirroring as a way to connect. It can be the body language, it can also be the voice, it can even be the language, right? So many ways to mirror other people. I was wondering, so using this mirroring and talking about authenticity, isn't there sometimes a conflict? That's actually a question that comes up a lot, usually in my classes, that I like to address, you know, head first. Can we be authentic when in our efforts to actually bond with the other person and mirroring them?
That's a perfect question. It's a perfect question. Of course, the answer is subjective to a certain degree, because it depends per person. I mean, you have like super high skilled manipulators, and they adapt to the other person. It makes you feel wanted, makes you feel desired, makes you feel seen and heard. Yeah. But what if they're being authentic and being a manipulator? So it almost takes down to the question: Are they really bad people? It's almost like nurture nature. Were they born maybe with a challenge in their brain that made them perfect manipulators, and they don't experience a form of empathy? The thing is that like we manipulate each other all the time. We want to create a good image. And if we do not do this, you can be authentic and super bad in using your body language. But your brain will say, I do not like this person because of that. So if I feel authentic, because right now I'm very tired, I don't feel like doing this interview, I have things going on in my head, so my authentic self would be like, no, I'm not engaged at all, I'm thinking about what I need to do, I stop connecting with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your perception of me will change completely. And this conversation will go in a completely different direction. So is it authentic what we do or not?
Mm-hmm.
For me, the essential question is, what kind of person surfaces,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of person appears when you are present?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a highly critical person, you will get a response to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a person that is very dominant, you will get a response to that. Either people will challenge your power, they will not acknowledge you because you take their space, or people will bow their head and just follow you because they don't want to be punished by you. And so in terms of connecting, I believe that bringing the best person to the surface, for me, is what I find most pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
I dedicate myself by paying attention, asking a question and listening, using not only mirroring, but also labeling. And especially in negotiations or hostage negotiations, you see a lot of labeling.
Mm-hmm.
Not just waiting for your moment to talk and to take over the conversation, but genuinely listen. You are extremely good at doing that,
So active listening. Yes.
Active listening.
Yes.
Making eye
Entering
contact.
the universe of the person, using it for them to better understand what you're saying.
Absolutely.
It's also a way to get your message across.
Yeah.
In that sense, for me, that's very, very much in alignment with my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I mirror, I feel authentic,
Mm-hmm.
right? That gets back to what you say, and maybe this ambiguity, and I really get the point when people ask me that if I try to enter too much the universe of the other or to mimic them too much, am I not losing myself in the process?
The question remains perfect, and it is up to the person
Exactly.
itself. For example, when you talk about your purpose, about yourself, your hand immediately goes
To my heart.
to your heart.
Uh-huh.
You start looking up because you have a vision
Yes.
of your person, your purpose. You can
Uh-huh.
see this purpose in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's super, empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's close to your heart, literally.
Yes.
That's why the hand connection.
Mm-hmm.
You can play with this, and people start mirroring that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is it a bad thing or not?
Mm.
I would say it's not up
It's
to
a
you.
personal answer.
It's a personal answer. Yes.
Yes, I love those gray areas. I think they're the ones where we can precisely explore and grow, right? This is the adventure and the invitation.
Yeah, and maybe to bring up like a person that's highly controversial, because we can talk about Oprah Winfrey and Steve Jobs, being inspiring to many people.
Yeah, great figures and very, very hard childhoods, right?
Yeah, they are very authentic, or perceived as very authentic people, very charismatic people as well. But what you see, Steve Jobs was adopted, and his biological father was a refugee from Syria. And during the course of his life, he always expressed the need to add value, to be of value. And you see this especially with people who have low self-esteem or feel themselves as low value because they were given away in early childhood. And with Oprah Winfrey, she was raped at a young age, and she got a child when she was 14 years old. Yet she overcame all these challenges, and she became super real, like almost unshakable.
And very strong, yes, exactly.
Super strong because of that. Because of that, she was like a rock solid, tested by fire from early childhood, and she overcame herself. And I believe that those challenges, those fires, and they hurt like hell. Those fires are needed, at certain stages and phases in our lives, in order to grow, being authentic.
Other examples?
Yeah. One of the examples, the controversial example, Adolf Hitler. You know, it almost feels like a challenge talking about him because nowadays people don't talk about the real stuff anymore. In my humble opinion, the question is: was he authentic? Because clearly he was charismatic. You know, he was followed by like millions of people, and to a certain extent, he was a very authentic human being as well. But for example, did you know that he was super creative as a child? He wanted to play the piano. I believe his aunt gave him a piano, but he had a father, a drunk, and his father would beat him up and make fun of him. And he wanted to go to art school to become an actor, and he was rejected all the time. And I remember one picture of Adolf Hitler where he stands in front of a mirror practicing his speech. And what I think is this man, he just looked for validation, for acceptance, to overcome rejection. And the end result of his life, of course, we all know. Yes, he became a well-known, well-established leader at the time, but also the initiator of World War II, which led to the destructions of millions of people. So the question arises is being authentic and being charismatic.
At what price?
Exactly, what is the price? Yeah.
For myself and for my surroundings, for my environment.
It's a perfect question.
This one we're not going to answer just right now, right? This is a very hard nut to crack.
It's a personal question.
Yes.
My personal story in the area is twice in my career. In order for me to be authentic, I had to let go of my reputation. I had to let go of my ambition, my career, my income, my financial status, and like wholeheartedly, I wanted to hold it. But it was troubling me so much inside because especially during crisis situations, if I did not stood up at that moment, it might have led to the death of people. But I would be obedient and I would be rewarded and I would keep my job and I would not be fired, had no stress. But I would have a conflict later on in life, for sure.
A conflict of values, right?
Fully. And twice in my career, I went through this cycle, and it was terrible. I would not encourage anyone to experience this, but if you go through this, I mean, you are tested by fire again, and it's up to you what decision do you make. And I had to be able to lose my job in order for me to be free, in order to do the right thing.
We talked a lot about leading by example and staying true to your values, and I feel like if you're a leader, well, you at some point you will have to face the situations and you will have to make the tough decisions and decide if you want to do what is right and keep being authentic, or if you, to which extent you want to compromise. And what are you losing by doing those compromises, right? I'm thinking about self-esteem, I'm thinking about health, right? Because we do know that conflict in values impact our physiology, our biology, right? So the cost is actually very, very high. And it's higher than a promotion, if you ask me.
And another example I would like to share with you is David Goggins. I don't know if you heard of David Goggins.
I have, yes.
So he's a former U.S. Navy SEAL. And what I love so much about him is that he always says, like, I am fat and lazy and dumb. And so this is the nature. And he created himself because of this. He acknowledged first, he became aware. He said, I am like a fat man and lazy and dumb. And learning is not easy for me. So he pushed himself again and again and again in order to become the person he wanted to be. And if you listen to him on YouTube or his audiobook, even his voice changes when he goes from David Goggins to Goggins. Like, this guy is extreme. He's intense. But he's so honest. He's so real. By acknowledging all the shit that took place in his past, about the abuse from his father. And because of him being so open and vulnerable and real and doing something about it, like it's a worthy pursuit. And for me, that is a form of inspiration.
Exactly. I wanted to connect to this. Like he's now in a position to inspire so many.
And he does. And so many people, because of his journey, are open to his suggestion. And they give him like a stage where he becomes charismatic and authentic and real.
We talked about authenticity and authentic leadership. Now, charisma.
Charisma. So, two words, charismatos, from the Bible in Latin, and charistais in Greek. It's about receiving a gift or having power. And in modern days, it's more translated like having this electric energy to command the presence when you walk into a room.
Now, Menno, is in your view, is charisma something that you're born with or something that's like any other skill? And I know the answer for you, actually, something that you can acquire.
Fully the second, because
I know you teach charisma. We're both passionate about the topic. So how can we do it to develop charisma?
The idea, like, have you ever seen a 10-year-old that you want to become like? Have you ever seen a child that was 7 years old that you say, wow, man, this person is so electrifying. His or her presence is so insane.
I'm thinking of my daughter.
Okay, you have actually.
I can really connect, yes.
And what most people say, well, I try to focus more on adults in that regard.
But children are helpful.
They are, wow.
Extremely.
Like the pure souls, that it truly is a worthy pursuit. And the
presence, right?
The presence, yeah, fully.
When I think of her presence at every moment.
And sometimes they go through life like completely ignorant of the world around them, and they're just playing and having fun, and they're passionate about what they do. They're full focus, when they're not doing like this, as long as you can keep them away from a phone, I would say more power to you. But being charismatic is what some person gives to you, and it depends per person who you find charismatic. For me, like Selena Gomez, not so much, but Lady Gaga has some elements where I think, wow, do you know the movie The Star Is Born?
Yeah, I love that movie. Yes.
And somewhere she says, well, I've my face and my nose, and I cannot be a professional singer because of that, because of all the critics.
She spent the first half of her career actually hiding herself, right?
Yeah. And then when she shows herself through music, through songs, like it makes my skin.
Yeah, me too. That's the moment I started actually liking her and acknowledging her talent.
Yeah. But it's going through the rejection, becoming aware, be honest. Don't hide it, like be honest. And then the confident person that appears when you just accept yourself and love yourself. This person is so appealing because we all want to be loved. We should all love ourselves first in order to give. And it's not always easy because of all the shit that we take on in our backpack. So, we can just leave the backpack for a minute and become real. And within executive coaching, within seminars, classes, this is a worthy pursuit.
Absolutely. Now, Menno, I'm wondering, so you've done all those careers already at such a young age. Now, what's next? What are the new heights that you want to conquer?
Yeah, like to put into practice what you just said, like moving forward, I can find myself in doing a lot of achievements, and I love doing achievements, but also increase the silence. Like stop the noise, like less phone, less computer, less emails, less meetings. And just sit next to a fire, stare into the flames and just be. And for me that is very important also to continue in this year. Also I love to write a book. And like, for you, like for everyone, you know what you want to do. Deep down you know what is inside you that needs to come out. It is there, you just need to give it space. And for me, one of those things is writing a book. I love building a house, to see the work of my hands. And one dream I have, and we're actually rather close to it, is to create this 3-day seminar where we genuinely focus on this. So, like genuine, strong transformation for leaders. Because the impact of leaders is so big for so many people.
Creating space, right? Because transformation takes time.
Fully, yeah. From it can be detoxing and ineffective behaviors to full confrontation and just being.
Yes.
Cut the noise, cut the bullshit, and focus on what is relevant.
I can really connect with everything you just said, because approaching this new year, I was really reflecting on what can I do less in my life, and that's been the main question that I've been working with, for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
So let's detox.
Let's do that.
Let's do less.
Yeah.
Let's be more. And thank you so much.
Thank you
so much, Menno, for joining us today,
Thank
for
you,
sharing
Sophie.
all your wisdom, and I look forward to continuing the journey together.
Likewise. Great. Thank you once again for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.